Nice to see you again, Abba. Welcome back to all our viewers and listeners. Abba, this week we're back to our normal format, each of us in our own country. Unfortunately, it was nice having you here, and hopefully we'll see each other soon. This week we're talking about the Parsha of Vayishlach. Vayishlach is an interesting Parsha because it serves as a transition between Yaakov's life in Haran back to Eretz Israel. But one of the things that happens very soon after he comes to the land of Israel is this terrible story of Shchem. Maybe give us a very quick synopsis of the story just to set the context for our viewers and listeners.
So Yaakov comes to Shchem. The Torah is telling us that Dina, his only daughter, ותצא דינה לראות בבנות הארץ, she's going to see the new exciting culture around them. Unfortunately, the son of the local chief, so to speak, fell in love with her. He kidnapped her. The children of Yaakov start negotiation with um, the people of Shechem. They deceive them to believe that they are going to become one and having wonderful relationship. The condition was that they are going to circumcise themselves, and they did so. The children of Yaakov used the fact that they were under surgery, basically, weak and unable to fight, to go into Shechem and simply to kill everyone in Shechem.
The Parsha starts with ותצא דינה בת לאה, אשר ילדה ליעקב לראות בבנות הארץ. So Dina, the daughter of Leah, and definitely is something that the commentaries make a big issue of. אשר ילדה ליעקב לראות בבנות הארץ, to see, like you said, the culture and to see what the girls her age were doing in this new country for her. They're immigrants. Yaakov is coming back to his own land, but his children have never been to Israel before. The commentaries see this in a negative light, but it said Dina bat Leah. Why is it painted in a negative sense? It's a young girl. She could have been maybe 10 years old or so at the time. Some say not even. What was so bad about going out to see the world?
I do believe that the whole story about Dina is a warning flag for future generations. What happened here? As Yaakov comes to the land that was promised to him, he experienced such a terrible, terrible thing. There is nothing more terrible than kidnapping your child, raping her, and you are a foreigner in the area and you don't know who to go to, because the way it was then, it was not that you went to the police station. This was an area that was controlled by tribes, by powerful families. What Yaakov could do? Nothing, basically. And the Torah wants to tell us about the challenges of the Jewish people for generations to come. You know, what I many, many times admire about our nation is the ability throughout the Jewish history to live within societies which are very different from us in their culture. We mingle into them. We excel in many, many areas, but we have to keep a fence between our culture and their culture. And the worst thing that can happen as a result is a marrying out. Because it's very easy. You live with these people. Sometimes you go to them with them to the university. You go to see performers. I'm sure that she was attracted to them. A beautiful thing, or what she thought was so beautiful about them. And the family of Yaakov always restrict themselves to live according to their values. So you come to Eretz Israel, to the Holy Land, you're sure that everything is going to be on a higher level, and here's such a terrible tragedy, a catastrophe to the whole value system of Yaakov. And again, as I said before, I think that the Torah is telling us here, you have to be careful. When you come across different culture, it's very dangerous. On one hand, you don't want to restrict yourself and to confine yourself into your community and not seeing what is happening in the other side. At the same time, it possesses a huge danger if you cross certain lines. And that's exactly the story of Dina. And you can hear it from the harsh reaction of the brother. That was their concern too. "Akezonai ya'aseh et achotenu." This is something that, like, all the fences, all the walls were broken down, and there is a danger of mingling into a very different society and different value system.
One of the interesting aspects of this whole terrible parsha of Shchem is the difference between how the brothers react and how the father reacts. Immediately after it happens, Yaakov hears about it, and the first thing we hear is V'cherish Yaakov ad boam, and Yaakov was silent until the brothers came back. Yaakov knew the brothers would be very, very upset, but he was macharish. And then, of course, the brothers come up with their plan. There's different opinions about how the plan came about. If all the brothers were in it, or just Shimon and Levi, if there was a disagreement here. How do we understand this terrible thing happened to Yaakov? The only daughter, at least, that we know about, is taken and raped, and he's silent. First of all, how does this happen in the first place? Yaakov is our father. He knew all these terrible things about assimilating and all that. How does he even let such a young daughter get to that situation? And then why is he silent when it happens?
These are great questions, and I think it highlights the special situation of Yaakov. On one hand, I'm sure that Yaakov was very hurt and traumatized by what happened. That's maybe the reason why he was silent. He did not know how to grasp the whole situation here. This was a terrible a hit to the whole system of the Abrahamic family. At the same time, I must say, let me ask you, do you think that Yaakov knew about the whole plot of the brothers when they negotiated with the people of Shechem?
It's very unclear. On the one hand, it seems like in the end he agrees to what they did, because he doesn't answer them back. On the other hand, we see later on, and this is, I think, a beautiful theme of the way that we discuss the Parsha, that we can look a few Parshas back, a few Parshas forward. And as you know, in Parshat Vayishlach, Yaakov seems to be livid with Shimon and Levi. This is the last time that they see each other, and he's giving all the sons, all the 12 tribes, brachos, which again is meant for eternity. And instead of giving a beautiful bracha to Shimon and Levi, first of all, he groups them together and says terrible things. Besodam al tavo nafshi, I will not enter their council. Bekelam al techad kevodi ki ve'apam, because in their anger, harguish, they basically committed what can only be described as a genocide. You and I take this very personally because, of course, we are descendants of Levi. But it does seem that there's this dual aspect here where Yaakov agrees to what they decided in the end by not protesting, but also in later on, he doesn't see it as a positive event for the family. Difference between Yaakov's approach and the brothers' approach seems to be, like you said, it doesn't seem he thought that the people of Shechem didn't deserve death. We have to speak about collective punishment and the different opinions here, how involved they were, from the fact that we see that they were willing to circumcise themselves. It seems like they knew why they were being asked to circumcise, which is quite a drastic step, which shows that they were complicit with everything that was happening. But Yaakov seems to say, even though this was the right thing to do in isolation, we live here. We have to be practical. We have to be pragmatic. And that's the approach that Yaakov seems to take. Whereas the brothers seem to take a more, I would say, like absolutist kind of approach of saying, listen, this is the wrong thing to do. We cannot be thinking about the practical implications and what will happen. We cannot have this. And how do you see that? Because what's the finishing line of this whole parsha. What do they answer back? It's a rare tool that the Torah here uses of a rhetorical question, which is, of course, the famous question of our sister will not be made into a harlot or a prostitute in order to keep us safe. And I think that's really the difference between the two approaches. And it does make sense that Yaakov was the older, wise man who's dealt politically with his brother, with Lava, and he's had a lot of experience that the brothers haven't had to deal with personally, whereas they can come in and say, I don't know what the implication will be. I don't know if will be attacked for this and will be less safe or more safe. We just know that you can't have the situation, which again, the Torah doesn't tell us if and what Yaakov's response was, but it does seem that from that aspect, they kind of won the argument. Is that a correct way to look at it?
There is no question that the brothers wanted to present themselves as the righteous people here. Not accepting pragmatic reasons as a reason not to retaliate and to punish the people of Shchem who did a terrible crime. However, I would like to suggest also that Yaakov assesses the situation from a different angle. If the brothers would stick only to punish the people of Shchem as a result of what they did to Dina, I would say that the Psukim shows us that Yaakov agreed with what they did. And I do believe that even the danger of other nations, from other nations, would not be so great, because it is common that when things like this happen between two tribes, the one who committed a crime is going to be punished severely. This happened until this very day if you go to the Bedouin society. But Yaakov saw something very concerning, alarming. In addition to kill the people of Shchem, they went and took their possession. Vayavozu al halalim. Please have in mind this picture of they going back, they look into the pocket, they take their money, they maybe take the rings from their fingers. This is not a holy war. This is not to protect their sister. Yaakov realized that there is something else there. It's a personality issue. It's the same bloodthirst that sometimes warriors have. And this concerns Yaakov to no end. And that's why I believe that Yaakov became so upset with his children.
And this would also explain Parshat Vayishlach.
Absolutely. Because in Parshat Vayishlach, he saw the entire picture and he came to the conclusion that they, pretend themselves to be so righteous and so noble and so caring about their sister. But these little things show that it was not exactly like this. It was, yes, maybe it was motivated by their will to protect the honor of their sister. But, once you start to cross borders, you don't know where it's going to end. And if I can add one little idea, I think this what happened to Esav. Yaakov knew very well that Esav's upbringing was positive. He wanted to help his father, maybe to protect the fields and the land of Israel that was promised to him. But at a certain point, Esav became a murderer. At a certain point, the weapons were not just to protect, they became a way to control people around him, to go with a small army of 400 people to scare everyone around him. This is crossing, there is nothing bad about being a warrior. It's very noble, and we admire the people who protect the land and they protect the people. But once you cross a border and you turn into a profession, you became like a professional murderer, that's a completely different story. And I'm afraid that maybe Yaakov saw in his children maybe this point that he knew already from his brother Esav.
We spoke about the bracha, which was not really full, doesn't seem like a bracha that Yaakov gave Shimon and Levi in Parshat Vayishlach at the end of his life, where he says, Ki b'apam al guish, uv'ritzonam yikrusho, etc., which does not sound very positive. And you would maybe think, so that should be, the end. If they're such terrible guys, let's end that line. Instead, Yaakov says something very interesting, אכלכם ביעקב, ואפיצם בישראל. I will disperse them all over the Jewish people, so they're not together. But on the other hand, when you disperse them, it means that they're impacting every tribe within the Jewish people. So how do we square the fact that they're have, like you said, anger issues, but on the other hand, we want that to be part of every Jewish community, and of course, Shevet Levi becomes in many ways the most important Shevet in all of Am Yisrael.
It's a very good question, because actually, if you just analyze the end of Parshat Vayishlach, you would say that Shevet Levi should be the most cursed a tribe of all the 12 tribes. And if you read Sefer Shmot, you get exactly the opposite impression. Not only that they are not cursed, they are the most blessed ones, because Moshe and Aaron come from the Shevet of Levi. They were children of Amram. And if you go to Sefer Vayikra, the entire Sefer is Torat Kohanim. He's talking about this particular Shevet and special status. And it's not for this podcast, but there is a theory by Mevakre Mikra, by all the critic of the Bible, that indeed it was written by Sefer Shmot and Sefer Vayikra, highlight like the narrative of the Leviim, unlike the other one that was written by another section. Well, we don't have to get there. I think that there is something very, very simple to explain here. Great people can see something in two different phases or lights. There is no question that Yaakov came to a conclusion that what happened in Shchem on the side of Shimon and Levi was wrong. But Yaakov also realized something very important about his children. They possess a very important virtue which is essential to the Jewish people. They have this zealousy that standing for the right principles despite all kind of calculation. He realized that actually they may be even greater than him, because he immediately started to calculate how it's going to influence the family, what the other people. But sometimes in order to stand strong, you have to be very, very principled. You have to stick to your values in an uncompromising way. And they saw it in Shimon and Levi. And I do believe that especially we went to Egypt and they were in a danger to lose everything from the Abrahamic family. It was important that a person like Levi, because this trait and refining what happened in Shechem, this trait kept the Jewish people alive with all the slavery and the torture that they had in Mitzrayim. Because they were so principled, because they were so zealous, they could stand the unbelievable pressure of the Egyptians. So Yaakov saw this and saw that. He knew that in order to have strong Jewish community, you need people like this, but they have to restrict themselves.
Yeah, I think it often is that something like anger, when it's unchecked, is very bad. But Yaakov, especially in forming the Jewish people, made sure that the positive aspects of this character trait would forever be an essential part of the entire Jewish people, every tribe. Pleasure, Abba, even if we're not in person this week, to discuss the Parsha together. And I'm looking forward to future weeks. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you very much, and Shabbat Shalom to everyone.